Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Further to continue with the deciphering of the Quran and Genesis, today, with the knowledge bestowed on me by the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me decipher and unravel the true knowledge of Ramayana. First of all, let us know what Ramayana is. The popular belief is that the Ramayana is an epic story of Rama and Sita written by Valmiki. It is considered as Itihasa, which belongs to the second category of text called Smriti among the Indian scriptures. But in reality, the Ramayana is a revelation of the lone creator of the universe, whose name is Ishwar, Bhagwan, Yahweh, God, and Allah. Yes, it is a revelation of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the prophet Valmiki, and it is not inferior to any other scriptures. Let me tell you all that the Ramayana is as sacred as Quran and Vedas and equal to them in every aspect. It is the revelation of the lone creator of the universe, revealed to explain the geological history of Indian Tectonic plate, migration of humans and lions to India. Though it is a bit technical in nature, I request you to watch this video completely without skipping for a proper understanding of it. Since deciphering the entire Ramayana in a single episode with all details is highly impossible, I am dividing it into multiple episodes based on the Kandas. In this episode, I am deciphering the Balakanda, the first book of Ramayana. To know who Rama is, first we have to understand the details of his birth. To know this, we have to comprehend the details of his birthplace and his parents. Ayodhya is the birthplace of Rama, and his father is Dasharatha and mother is Kaushalya. According to the Ramayana, Book 1, Chapter 5, verse number 5, 13 and 22, Ayodhya is the capital city of Kingdom Kosala, ruled by the king Dasharatha. Ayodhya was situated on the banks of river Sarayu, surrounded by moats. To identify Ayodhya and Dasharatha, let us take the help of Google Earth, as how I have shown the use of Google Earth in my previous presentations to identify prophets and places. This is the image of Dasharatha, and the extent of the Dasharatha's image is the boundary of the Ayodhya. The divergent faults and fractures are referred as the rivers by the creator of the universe, and different names are assigned to the different segments of these divergent faults present at the margins of these plate boundaries. The magma or lava flowing in them are referred as water, and it is flowing from one direction to the other. This is scientifically called the movement of the magma due to convection currents. Here, the divergent fault present in the vicinity of South Africa is referred as River Sarayu. According to the chapter number 8, verse number 2, Dasharatha thought of conducting a horse sacrifice called Ashwamedha to get a son. According to the chapter 8, verse number 15, the yajna will be conducted on the northern banks of the Sarayu, and the sacrificial horse will be released to roam. This indicates that the African plate, which resembles a horse, is the sacrificial horse and was ready to move in any direction. According to the chapter 9, verse number 1 and 19, Sumantra, a minister of Dasharatha, suggested to call Rishashringa to perform the yajna. Rishashringa had horn on his head by birth, and because of which he is named as Rishashringa. The Kerguelen Islands represent the Rishashringa, as this land appears to be having horns on its head, as you can see in this picture. According to the chapter number 14, verse number 25 to 26, in total, 21 octagonal shaped pillars with smooth surface of different trees were erected for the sacrifice day. The octagonal shaped pillars represent the columnar basalts formed from the basaltic magma. These pillars could be the organ pipes occurring at Damaraland, Namibia, and other places of southern Africa. According to the chapter number 14, verse number 29, the fireplace of altar was in the shape of a Garuda with golden wings, was looking downwards facing the east. This is an image of the Garuda representing the fireplace of altar, but it is facing towards the west. This indicates that during that time there was a polar reversal, and the present South Pole was the North Pole during that time. This is confirmed from the earlier statement the yajna will be conducted on the northern banks of Sarayu. The yajna place consisted of 18 pits as mentioned in the chapter 14, verse number 29. The yajna pits could represent the volcanic craters, and these are some of the images of these pits present in the southern Africa as well as in the Edward Islands and its surroundings. According to the chapter 15, verse number 3 and 4, Rishashinga poured the oblations of the yajna into the sacred fire, and all the gods, seers, and Gandharvas along with Brahma assembled there to receive their share. This indicates that there was an igneous activity at the Kerguelen Islands due to the presence of a mantle plume representing the Rishashinga, which caused the volcanic activity at 18 places, which created the rift due to the subsidence of crust at these 18 places. This rifting resulted in the breaking of Gondwana and formation of Antarctica, which represents the Brahma, and the other crustal parts represent the Siddhas, Gandharvas, and seers. According to the chapter number 15, verse number 5 and 11, during the time of Yajna, all the gods approached Brahma and complained against Ravana, who was harassing them, and requested to put an end to him. During that time, Vishnu arrived there, riding on the back of a Garuda as the sun on a cloud, clad in yellow and wielding a conch, discus, and mace in his hands, as mentioned in the chapter number 15, verse number 16 to 17. This indicates that during this time the Ilgan Kraton was created, which resembles a Garuda, above which the North Australian Kraton was created, which resembles the image of Vishnu holding a conch in his hand, as shown in this picture. As you can see in this picture, this Garuda also facing towards the west, which suggests that during the time of its creation, it was facing towards the east. This confirms that the poles were reversed during the time of its creation. On the request of Brahma and others, Vishnu agrees to take birth as a son of Dasharatha, as mentioned in the chapter number 15, verse number 28 to 32. After agreeing to take birth as human, Vishnu said goodbye to Brahma and disappeared from that place, as mentioned in the chapter number 16, verse number 10. This indicates that during this time the Australian plate has migrated away from Antarctica. This also indicates that the mantle plume representing the Vishnu has moved away from this point. A mighty dark-complexioned extraordinary being clad in red, looking like a blazing fire, arose from the yajna fire carrying payasa in a big golden bowl covered with silver lid, as mentioned in the chapter number 16, verse number 11 to 15. This is the image of dark-complexioned extraordinary being representing the rocks of this region. The details mentioned in the verses and the image details indicate that there was an intrusion of basalt and red-colored volcanic rocks, which could be rhyolites. This extraordinary being and the payasa represents the igneous rocks of Parana Ethendeka group of rocks consisting of basalts, quartzite, and rhyolite. The mineralogical composition of rhyolite is quartz and feldspar, and rhyolites are metaphorically mentioned as payasa. The payasa is an Indian sweet dish like porridge prepared with rice and sugar, where quartz is compared with rice and feldspar is mentioned as sugar. The dark-complexioned extraordinary being said, "I am a messenger of Vishnu and have arrived from his realm to hand over the payasa prepared by the gods," as mentioned in the chapter number 16, verse number 16 to 19. This indicates that these rock types have originated at the upper region of the lower mantle, which is a transition zone and called as the Sutala in Indian scriptures, where the prophet Vishnu is guarding the gates of King Bali's palace, as mentioned in one of the earlier presentations, Miraj, the sun structure. This also indicates that the prophet Vishnu also represents a supermantle plume. After handing over the payasa to Dasharatha, he vanished into the fire itself, as mentioned in the chapter number 16, verse number 24. Dasharatha distributed the payasa among his 3 wives, Kaushalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi, to get 4 sons, as mentioned in the chapter number 16, verse number 27 to 29. According to the chapter 17, during this time, Jambavan, Vali, Sugriva, and Hanuman were born, where all these monkeys represent different fragments of the Gondwana land. This event marks the beginning of the opening of the Indian Ocean. After 11 months, 9 days from the Ashwamedha sacrifice, Kausalya gave birth to Rama, Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharata, and Sumitra gave birth to Lakshmana and Shatrugna, as mentioned in the chapter number 18, verse number 10 to 11. This is the event of formation of the Indo-Australian plate, Madagascar and Sri Lanka, where Rama represents the Indian plate, Bharata and Shatrugna represents the Madagascar, and Lakshmana represents the Sri Lanka. And these are the three wives of Dasharatha, where Kaushalya represents the western segment of Indian Ocean, Sumitra represents the southern Indian Ocean, and Kaikeyi represents the southern Atlantic Ocean. When Rama is about 16 years old, sage Vishwamitra arrived at the palace of Dasharatha and said to the gatekeepers to inform the king about him. The sage Vishwamitra, belonging to the line of Kusa, the son of Gadi, have arrived at his door as mentioned in the chapter 18, verse number 39 to 40 and chapter 20, verse number 2. Here, the dicracks of Okavango dike swarm present at the southern margin of Africa represent the fort wall. This is the entrance of the fort and this is the image of the gatekeeper. And some of the igneous rocks of this basin, which might have derived from the melting of older subducted rocks, may represent the sage Vishwamitra, as he is telling that he is a progeny of Gadi. This is the image of Vishwamitra representing these rocks of Drakensberg and Lebombo group. And this is one more image of Dasharatha, which has formed from the confluence of these two rivers, which is flowing towards these rocks, which is mentioned as Dasharatha has provided water to Vishwamitra to wash his hands, as mentioned in the chapter 18, verse number 44. Vishwamitra asked Dasharatha to send Rama with him for 10 nights to kill two Rakshasas while he is performing his sacrificial rituals without any hindrance from them, as mentioned in the chapter 19, verse number 4, 17 and 18. When the Dasharatha refused to send Rama and instead offered himself to go with Vishwamitra to fight with the ogres, Vishwamitra became furious, due to which the whole earth shook, as mentioned in the chapter 20, verse number 28 and chapter 21, verse number 4. This indicates that there was a powerful eruption of lava in this area associated with earthquakes. This is one more image of Vishwamitra and Dasharatha appears to be in conversation. Though Dasharatha was reluctant in the beginning, on the advice of sage Vasishtha, finally he agreed and sent Rama and Lakshmana with Vishwamitra, as mentioned in the chapter 22, verse number 2 to 3. This indicates that the sage Vishwamitra also represents a wandering mantle plume. Similarly, Rama, Lakshmana and others also represent a smaller mantle plume. If you zoom to the area of divergent faults and carefully observe the bathymetric features, you can see the images of Vishwamitra, Rama and Lakshmana that are carved out in the oceanic crust on the orders of the creator of the universe. The statement mentioned in the chapter 22, verse number 6, Vishwamitra walked in the front and Rama followed him with a bow and Lakshmana followed the latter, indicate that this is the place from where the marking of the boundary for the Indo-Australian plate began, which is shown in this image. The wandering mantle plume representing Vishwamitra, Rama and Lakshmana are responsible for the creation of this boundary. After walking for a distance of 12 yojanas along the southern bank of Sarayu, Vishwamitra asked Rama to sip a little water and later all the three slept there on a bed of straw, as mentioned in the chapter 22, verse number 11, 12 and 24. This is the image of Rama sipping water with his hands. This indicates that the mantle plume representing Rama might have absorbed some amount of water or some magmatic fluids from the mantle. This is the image of Rama and others sleeping on straw, where the topography created by the movement of the plates is appearing like straw, as you can see in this picture. While moving onwards from the spot where they were staying, they sighted the river Ganga, where they stayed in an ashram belonging to Kama, where Rudra destroyed the Kama in the previous birth, as mentioned in the chapter 23, verse number 5 and 16. This could be the image of ashram of Kama, where Shiva destroyed the Kama in the previous birth, as mentioned in the chapter 23, verse number 10 to 15, where previous birth is related to the pre-existing rocks. According to the chapter 24, verse number 3 and 4, The following morning, they took a boat to cross the river Ganga. This is an image of a boat as shown in this picture. This also indicates that this boat-like microplate helped the Indo-Australian plate to move further. On reaching the middle of the river, Rama heard a distinct noise enhanced by the agitation caused by the striking of waves against one another and asked Vishwamitra the reason for this noise as mentioned in the chapter 24, verse number 5. On his inquiry, Vishwamitra said, "This sound, which has no parallel, proceeds from the violent commotion caused by the onrush of its waters, even as it rushes to meet Ganga, as mentioned in the chapter 24, verse number 10. This indicates that the confluence of Sarayu and Ganga creates a frontal boundary by the convergence of two different types of magma. The Rodriguez triple junction represents the confluence of rivers Sarayu and Ganga, where even the scientists have reported the emanation of a distinct sound. This is the image of a Yaksha woman called Tataka, and Maricha is her son, as mentioned in the chapter 24, verse number 17 to 29. Rama cut off her arms, as mentioned in the chapter 26, verse number 17, indicating the creation of the boundary in the form of divergent plate boundary at this location. Later, Rama killed her by hitting with a shaft at her breast, as mentioned in the chapter 26, verse number 26. This is the image of Rama hitting at the breast of Tataka land, meaning opening a rift of divergent boundary at this place. This is the image of Tataka's heart representing the St. Paul Island, which is in the form of a heart. This indicates that the mantle plume representing the Rama might have shot an offshoot of magma which seized the eruption from this island, meaning it has become dead, and this might have created a rift. After this, they stayed in the forest for that night, as mentioned in the chapter 26, verse number 36, indicating the moving mantle plume stationed there for a while. This could be the place where they stayed, where Rama is shown in a horizontal position, suggesting he is sleeping. After emerging out from the Tataka's forest, when Rama asked Vishwamitra where his ashram is, Vishwamitra showed an ashram which is presently occupied by him but originally belongs to the Vishnu but later occupied by the Vamana, the dwarf who is known by the name Siddhashrama. It was during this time the king Bali, son of Virochana and grandson of Prahlada, ruled over the kingdom of Indra as mentioned in the chapter 29, verse number 2 to 5. This is the image of Vamana, the dwarf, representing the Australia, and this is the place of Siddhashrama where the Australia was located earlier. According to the chapter 29, verse number 20 to 21, Vishnu as dwarf covered all the three realms of the world in 3 steps and destroyed Bali, then restored the world under the control of Indra. This could be the image of King Bali representing this land south of Tasmania who was pushed to the Patala by Vamana, indicating that Australia plate has subducted this land during those days. According to the chapter 30, Vishwamitra conducted a sacrificial yajna at Siddhashrama and ignited the fire at altar. This indicates that at this place there was an eruption from the mantle plume representing the Vishwamitra. This is the image of Vishwamitra sitting in front of the yajna fire where the contrasting colors of the land appears like a fire. These details are also applicable to the animals as well as the humans as an enactment of these natural events. When we talk about animals, the sage Vishwamitra represents a bull, could be an auroch, and Rama represents a lion. This is the reason why Vishwamitra took Rama to protect him during the yajna. This also indicates that when the cattle migrated to this place of Australia, the lions too followed them. For more details, please watch my presentation Evolution of Life. On the 6th day, 2 demons, Maricha and Subahu, rained torrents of blood as well as of flesh, indicate that during this time there was a volcanic eruption from the Zealandia land which caused the raining of ash and volcanic debris at the place of mantle plume eruption. The Zealandia represents the 2 demons Maricha and Subahu as shown in this image. The two demons were rushing headlong towards Rama, indicating that the Zealandia was moving towards the Indo-Australian plate. The chapter 30, verse number 15 to 18 and 22 to 23 states that I will not kill Maricha as he is destined to survive for some more years. Having said that, the Rama shot an arrow at the breast of Maricha, who flung in mid-ocean but killed the Subahu with an arrow. This indicates that the Indo-Australian plate pushed one segment of the Zealandia representing Subahu into the mantle, whereas the remaining segment representing the Maricha has survived the subduction during this time but was pushed far into the ocean. After the successful completion of Yagna at Siddhashrama, Vishwamitra proceeded towards north to go to the highest rock called Himavantam, which is lying on the northern banks of river Janvi, along with Rama, Lakshmana and few other rishis, as mentioned in the chapter 31, verse number 15 to 16. This indicates that during this time the magnetic poles are normalized. According to chapter number 31, verse number 18 to 24, even herds of beasts and flocks of birds dwelling in the Siddhashrama followed Vishwamitra. When they reach the river Sona, they break their journey on the banks of Sona, where Vishwamitra persuaded the birds and beasts to return as they have travelled a long distance. This indicates that the smaller plumes and land masses resembling the beasts and birds also started migrating along with the plume representing Vishwamitra, but later they stopped migrating after some distance. This also indicates that when the bull representing the Vishwamitra started migrating towards the north, the other animals and birds also migrated with it, but later they returned from this place called River Sona, to which scientists call the Lydekkers Line. Here, the eastern boundary of Sunda Trench or Banda Arc represents the river Sona. This segment of the Ganga is known by the name River Janvi. The Palau Island may represent the Himavantam mountain. The chapter number 32 to 34 explains the story of Vishwamitra and the formation of this looped land, which resembles a garland representing the Banda Sea and its adjacent land. From here, the river Sona flows into Magadha land, which represents the entire Papua mainland. The land of Aru Islands represents the Kusa, who had four sons named Kusamba, Kusanabha, Asurtarajasa, and Vasu. Kusamba founded the city of Kausambi, Kusanaba built the city Mahodaya, Asurtarajasa built Dharmaranya, and Vasu built Giriraja, also known as Vasumati, representing these landmasses. The Kusanaba and Kausambi may represent Malaku Island, and West Papua represents the Vasu and Giriraja. Later, a son named Gadhi was born to Kusanaba and performing a sacrifice. Vishwamitra says, Gadhi was my father and I am known as Kaushika, as mentioned in the chapter 34, verse number 5 to 6. Vishwamitra had an elder sister named Satyavati who bodily rose to heaven and then converted into river Kaushiki, flowing by the side of Himavan mountain, where I am doing tapas on the banks of the Kaushiki, as mentioned in the chapter 34, verse number 7 and 10. I came down to plains leaving that river because of my vow to perform a sacrifice at some consecrated spot and arrived at Siddhashrama, as mentioned in the chapter 34, verse number 12. This indicates that an oceanic plate named Satyavati rose to the polar regions, which is mentioned as the heaven, and this is the image of Satyavati. The Gakel Ridge, which is the northernmost segment of the Mid-Atlantic Rift or the Eurasian Basin, represents the river Kaushiki. Vishwamitra is silently performing the tapas, standing there with the raised hands on the banks of Kaushiki, as mentioned in the chapter 63, verse number 23. The landmass of Arctic Ocean, consisting of Lomonosov, Mendeleev, and Alpha ridges, represent the sage Vishwamitra, who is silently performing the tapas, standing there with the raised hands. This confirms that Vishwamitra represents a mantle plume, and some of the mantle plumes can migrate from one place to another. From these details, we can infer that a mantle plume is mentioned as Rasul in Quran, meaning a messenger. and therefore we can conclude that Vishwamitra is a Rasul of Allah, meaning messenger of Allah. The chapter 34 to 44 deals with the origin and expanse of Ganga, where the river Ganga represents the magma or lava. To keep the video short, I am skipping these details and it can be discussed in one of the future presentations in detail, inshallah. The Greenland represents the Himavan mountain and this is the image of King Himavan. The northern portion of the Greenland represents the Ganga and the western portion of Greenland represents the Uma, as you can see in this picture. The northern portion of the Canada represents the Rudra, as you can see in this picture, where the streams representing the Ganga flowing in the matted hair of Rudra, as mentioned in the chapter 43, verse number 9. According to the chapter 36, verse number 25 to 26, Rudra along with Uma moved westward and started meditation on the northern peak called Himavat Prabhava, representing the Ellesmere Island region of North American plate. This indicates that during this time the North American plate moved westward from the Eurasia. During this time a son named Skanda was born to Ganga, who represents the flood basalts of Siberia, which are deposited in the form of Skanda as shown in this image. The chapter number 38 to 44 explains the story of Bhagiratha, who brought Ganga to the earth, which explains the formation of trenches around the Pacific plate, which is called as the circum-Pacific belt or the ring of fire, and the flow of subterranean magma in it. According to the chapter number 38, a king of Ayodhya named Sagara had two wives and he begat 60,000 sons from his younger wife through a fetus resembling a bitter gourd. When the gourd is split open, these 60,000 sons came out. This could be the image of Sagara and his two wives, and this is the image of bitter gourd, and these tiny seamounts spread in this area represent the sons of Sagara. These 60,000 sons of Sagara dug the earth up to Rasatala, indicating that this is the time when the trenches in the Pacific plate are formed due to the subduction or subsidence of the crust. As I have shown you in my previous presentation, Allah revealed the earth is divided into three segments as heaven, earth and hell, where hell is mentioned as Patala in the Indian scriptures. Here the Rasatala indicate the Antarctic Circle. This indicates that the trenches were formed up to the Antarctic Circle. This is the image of Bhagiratha, who is performing tapas on the tip of one of his toes, as mentioned in the chapter number 43, verse number 1. Bhagiratha represents the southern portion of Kermadec Ridge and the Macquarie Island. Bhagiratha brought Ganga to the earth and took it up to the pit dug by the sons of Sagara, which reaches the Rasatala, indicating this is the time at which the trenches are filled with magma that is brought from the northern polar region to Antarctic Circle. According to the chapter 44, verse number 1 to 3, Bhagiratha offered the Ganga water to eradicate the sins of sons of Sagara, by which their souls ascended to heaven, indicating there was a remobilization of magma which ultimately reached to the earth's surface, where the earth's surface is metaphorically mentioned as the heaven. This is the reason why in India the ashes of a deceased person are immersed in the Ganga water as an enactment of this event. This is the reason why Prophet Muhammad practiced to pour water on the grave as an enactment of this event. The performance of the Pitrupaksha in India could also be related to this event. After crossing Ganga in a boat, Vishwamitra, Rama and others reached the kingdom of Vishala, where these islands and the bathymetric topography appears like a boat. The chapter number 45 to 49 explains the creation of Sunda plate, which is mentioned as Vishala. According to chapter 45, verse number 15 to 18, in the Satya Yuga of old, Sura and Asura sons were born to Aditi and Diti respectively. To be immortal, they decided to churn the ocean, making the Mount Mandara as churning rod, using Vasuki as a card. After 2000 years, Dhanvantari, Apsara, Varuni and the horse called Uchchaisrava Then Kaustubha Mani, and finally the Amrita appeared as mentioned in the chapter number 45, verse number 29 to 39. Finally, the sons of Aditi completely destroyed the sons of Diti as mentioned in the chapter number 45, verse number 45. This is the image of Aditi and Diti representing the Celebes Sea, Sulu Sea and West Philippine Sea respectively. This is the image of snake Vasuki representing the Sunda subduction zone. This is the image of Mount Mandara and head of Vasuki representing the South China Sea. This could be the image of Dhanvantri and Varuni representing the Sumatra and Malaysia respectively. The small islands and lagoons present in this area may represent the Apsaras and Riau Island represents the Shankha. This is the image of the horse Uchchaisrava representing the Philippines. This could be the image of Kaustubha Mani representing the Pratas Island. All these details are related to the collision of Sunda Plate, Philippines Plate and Australian Plate where the action of churning is related to the repeated migration of these land masses in a forward and backward movement along the Sunda subduction zone. After 1000 years, the Mount Mandara sank to Patala and Vishnu became tortoise and held it at the bottom to continue the churning as stated in the chapter 45, verse number 27, 29 and 30. This is the image of Vishnu in the form of tortoise representing the southern parts of China, Thailand and Vietnam. This indicates that the landmass that was present at this place representing the Mount Mandara was sank to the mantle, but the subducted part of the Australian plate prevented it from further sinking. This is the image of Sumati, the present king of Vishala kingdom, representing the Borneo. Kashyapa went for practicing austerities after granting a boon to his wife Diti as mentioned in the chapter 46, verse number 7. This could be the image of Kashyapa representing the part of Amur plate. Since the sons of Aditi killed her sons, Diti began to observe tapas for 1000 years at Kusaplava to beget a son who could kill Indra as mentioned in the chapter 46, verse number 1 to 2. While she was practicing austerities, Indra, the thousand-eyed god, rendered personal service to her. When only 10 years are left to complete the 1000 years, Diti fell asleep, during which she put her feet where her head should be. Then Indra entered the orifice of her genitals and cut the fetus into 49 parts as mentioned in the chapter 46, verse number 10 to 20. This is the image of genital area where Indra entered inside the Diti's body to cut the fetus. This indicates the formation of the Spratly Islands, which represents the fetus. All this information indicates that the oceanic crust representing the Diti was subjected to intense heat, leading to the partial melting. But the landmass representing Indra not only interfered the formation of a new landmass, but also divided the magma formed from the melted slab into 49 blobs, which ultimately lead to the formation of these islands. The Philippine Islands represent the place Kusaplava, which could be a microplate. It is also mentioned that this is the former place where Indra inhabited as mentioned in the chapter 47, verse number 10. Then the question is where Indra is located now. Indra is mentioned as thousand-eyed god in the chapter 46, verse number 9 and chapter 48, verse number 19 and 26. This is the image of Indra which is having 1000 eyes in the form of multiple small lakes at its eye area. This indicates that Indra represents Okhotsk plate. From this we can also infer that Okhotsk plate was at this place and later migrated to the present place. After staying for a night at Vishala, Vishwamitra, Rama and others departed to Mithila as mentioned in the chapter 48, verse number 9. On their way, when they saw an abandoned ashram, Rama asked, "Whose ashram is this?" The Vishwamitra elaborates the story of the ashram to Rama in the chapter number 48. According to the chapter number 48, verse number 15 to 28, the said ashram was once occupied by the sage Gautama, who along with his wife Ahalya practiced austerities for many years. When the sage Gautama has gone out of his ashram for his daily rituals, Indra came in disguise as Gautama and involved in physical activities with Ahalya. Later, hurriedly left the ashram with big strides, fearing to be caught, but at the same time, sage Gautama saw Indra coming from the ashram as in the disguise of himself at the entrance. Then he cursed Indra to get shorn of his testicles. Immediately his testicles fell down on the ground. This is the area of Gautama's ashram representing the Philippines plate. This is an image of Ahalya representing the Philippine Sea. This is an image of Indra and Gautama who met at the entrance of the ashram. This is an image of testicles of Indra which fell down due to cursing. This indicates that the lower portion of the Indra land, that is Ukhut's plate, was separated due to the collision of the plate representing Gautama. According to the chapter 48, verse number 33, the sage Gautama left his hermitage after cursing Indra and Ahalya to practice ascetics at Himavach Sikhara and later returned as mentioned in the chapter 49, verse number 21. This indicates that the Mariana plate representing Gautama has moved away from its position and later returned to its original position. Later, Indra sought the help of gods headed by Agni to restore his testicles. They all approached the Pitrudeva to restore the testicles of Indra with the testicles of a ram which was standing nearby. From that time onwards, the Indra is having testicles of a ram as mentioned in the chapter number 49, verse number 6 to 9. This indicates that a piece of landmass of a ram resembling testicles was attached to the lower portion of the Indra landmass. This is the image of the ram representing the part of North American and Okhotsk plate. This is the image of Indra with the testicles of a ram representing the Okhotsk plate where the testicles of ram represents the Kamchatka peninsula. This could be the image of Agni Deva and Vayu Deva representing the Karaginsky island which is a part of Okhotsk plate. The ancient land present here off the coast of Kamchatka peninsula may represent the Pitrudeva, indicating it might have pushed the Kamchatka peninsula from its original position and attached it with the land representing Indra. It is mentioned in the chapter 49, verse number 19 that when the Vishwamitra, Rama and others entered the ashram of Gautama, there was an abundant shower of flowers from the heavens, indicating there was an abundant snowfall during this time. Proceeding in a northeasterly direction from the sage Gautama's ashram, keeping Vishwamitra at the head of the party, they all reached the sacrificial enclosure of the Janaka, the king of Mithila, as mentioned in the chapter number 50, verse number 1. Vishwamitra halted at a secluded and clean spot supplied with water and on the request of Janaka sat down on the seat offered by him as mentioned in the chapter 50 verse number 5 and 11. This is the image of Janaka and his minister Satananda in the front. The Mithila represents the western portion of the North American plate. The Vishwamitra may represent some of the younger rocks of Hall Island which are sitting on some of the older rocks of the North American plate, as it is mentioned that the Vishwamitra sat down on the seat offered by Janaka. Satananda, other priests and Janaka with his ministers sat down on all sides of Vishwamitra. Here it appears such that Vishwamitra is at the center and others are sitting around him. According to the chapter 50, verse number 3 to 4, many brahmanas as well as small enclosures set apart for rishis and many carts are seen at the place of yajna. These are the images of carts, chariots and rishis representing the small islands present in the area of Bering Sea. On an enquiry, Vishwamitra informed the Janaka that the Rama and Lakshmana are the sons of King Dasharatha and they are visiting Mithila to know about the great bow kept in Mithila as mentioned in the chapter 50 verse number 24. Janaka said, I will certainly show that bow to Rama and if Rama is able to string that bow, I promise to give away my daughter Sita in marriage to Rama as mentioned in the chapter 66 verse number 26. When the Rama along with Vishwamitra arrived to Mithila, Janaka instructed his counselors to bring the bow, which is adorned with flowers and sandal paste, as mentioned in the chapter 67, verse number 2. According to the chapter 67, verse number 4, 5,000 unusually tall and well-built men somehow managed to propel the chest containing the bow mounted on 8 wheels. This is the image of the super bow of Rudra representing the Aleutian Arc and Kuril Islands in the form of a ridge extending from Japan to Alaska. One can see the flowers in the form of small islands on this bow as a decoration as mentioned in the chapter 67 verse number 2. These are some of the images of the unusually tall and well-built men who propelled the chest in the form of the bigger islands and the volcanoes present on the ridge. On the instructions of the Vishwamitra, Rama lifted that bow and to put the string, he bent it and the bow broke into two at the middle as mentioned in the chapter 67 verse number 15 to 17. This indicates that in the beginning the shape of this ridge existing between Japan and Alaska was not like the present shape. It was extending continuously from Japan to Alaska in the form of a bow, but later the Indian plate representing the Rama lifted it from beneath and pushed it in such a way that it broke from the middle and attained the present shape. Here one can see the break at the middle and an image of Rama holding the broken bow in hands can be seen here as shown in this picture. This collision of the plates caused a great earthquake which caused an explosive sound and shook the earth to such an extent where some of the land masses were rotated as mentioned in the chapter 67 verse number 18 to 19, where it is stated that a great noise reverberating like a crash of thunder issued from it even as it broke, and a violent earthquake followed in its wake as it would in the event of a mountain cracking. Stunned by the sound, all the men present there except Vishwamitra, Janaka, Rama and Lakshmana were toppled down. These are the images of men who appeared to be toppled down from their original position. On this occasion, Janaka said, "My vow was fulfilled today, and I am happy to give away my daughter Sita to Rama, as mentioned in the chapter 67, verse number 23. On getting permission from Vishwamitra, Janaka sent his counselors to Ayodhya to bring Dasharatha and his family, as mentioned in the chapter 67, verse number 27. The counselors of Janaka brought the Dasharatha and his convoy to Mithila. In the meantime, Janaka invited his brother Kushadhwaja, who is the ruler of Sankarsya, whose boundaries are marked out by a defensive wall mounted by spears, as mentioned in the chapter 70, verse number 2 to 3. This is the image of Kushadhwaja representing the northern part of Alaska. This is the area of Sankarsya where these oceanic ridges and canyons appear like the spears. Vashishta on behalf of Dasharatha requested Janaka to give his two daughters Sita and Urmila in marriage to Rama and Lakshmana as mentioned in the chapter 70 verse number 44 to 45. According to the chapter 72 verse number 1 to 15, Vishwamitra proposes to marry Bharata and Shatrughna with the two daughters of Kushadhwaja, for which both Dasharatha and Janaka agreed. According to the chapter number 73, Rama married to Sita, Lakshmana married to Urmila, Bharata married to Mandavi, and Shatrughna married to Shrutakirti. The marriage of Rama with Sita indicate that the Indian tectonic plate was attached with the oceanic plate representing the Sita. This is the image of Sita representing the Sea of Japan, which is a part of Amur plate. According to the chapter 74, verse number 1, the next morning, Vishwamitra departed to the northernmost mountain, which is mentioned as Jagamottara Parvat. This indicates that Vishwamitra traveled to the northernmost mountain representing the Lomonosov, Mendeleev and Alpha ridges present in the Arctic Ocean. This confirms that the mantle plume of Arctic Ocean migrated from one place to another. Immediately after the departure of Vishwamitra, Dasharatha along with everyone departed from Mithila as mentioned in the chapter 74 verse number 2. At that time king of Mithila gave away many cows, carpets, horses, chariots and foot soldiers as dowry. The islands of Japan represents the cows, horses and soldiers as shown in this slide. This may indicate that during this time some parts of the Japan islands have formed due to the involvement of the North American plate. While Dasharatha and his convoy are on the way to Ayodhya, suddenly Parashurama appeared in front of Dasharatha as mentioned in the chapter 74, verse number 15 to 19. According to the chapter number 75, Parashurama said to Rama that, I have heard of you breaking the bow of Rudra. Now I have brought one more sacred bow. I want you to shoot an arrow with a full stretch. This bow is made by the Vishwakarma and donated to Vishnu. I came all the way from Mount Mahendra to give a single combat to you. This is the image of Parshurama and the Mount Mahendra representing the Iceland. This is the image of bow of Vishnu representing the Tonga Karmatic ridge. According to the chapter 76, verse number 4, Rama seized the bow and arrow from Parshurama and stringed it and mounted an arrow on it, indicating that the Indian plate captured the Tonga Karmatic ridge from the Iceland mantle plume and a fault line was created by the Indian plate over this ridge. According to the chapter 76, verse number 22, Parshurama returned to the Mount Mahendra, indicating that the Iceland mantle plume migrated to eastern part of Australia and later returned to its original place at the Iceland. This also confirms that some of the mantle plumes migrate from one place to another. Later, Rama handed over the bow of Vishnu to Varuna, the god of water, as mentioned in the chapter 77, verse number 1, indicating it was handed over to an oceanic plate representing Varuna, and due to this, it remained submerged in the oceanic waters. All this information confirms that the Rama also represents a mantle plume apart from a tectonic plate. The migration of mantle plumes representing Rama, Lakshmana and Vishwamitra has created the southern and eastern boundary of the Indo-Australian tectonic plate in collaboration starting from South Africa up to the Kamchatka Peninsula. The remaining parts of the boundary are created later, which is mentioned in the subsequent chapters of the Ramayana, which shall be discussed in future presentation, inshallah. The breaking of the super bow of Rudra indicate that the Indian plate has migrated towards east and then towards north, triggering the breaking of the ridge present between Japan and Alaska, creating a subduction zone. Finally, Dasharatha, his sons and their convoy returned to Ayodhya as mentioned in the chapter 77, verse number 3, indicating that the Indian plate has migrated back towards Africa and coexisted with the African plate for some more time. This also indicates that the mantle plume representing the Rama has also migrated back to the South African region. In my previous presentations, I have deciphered the Quran and Genesis and disclosed that all the revelations are the scientific information revealed to the prophets in the form of scriptures. Similarly, all the information provided in this presentation confirms that Ramayana is a revelation of Allah and contains the scientific knowledge. This confirms that Ramayana is equal to Quran, Genesis, Vedas and other divine scriptures. It is mentioned in the Quran that there are two types of prophets known as Nabi and Rasul, where a Nabi represents a tectonic plate, as I have shown in my previous presentations. In this presentation, I have shown that Rama represents the Indian tectonic plate, which confirms that Rama is a Nabi who is mentioned as Dhul-Kifl in Quran. It is also mentioned in Quran, chapter number 21, verse number 85 and 86 that Dhul-Kifl is a man of patience, righteous, and we admitted him into our mercy. All these details confirms that Rama was an ardent Muslim and a prophet of Allah, where the word Devata is used for a prophet in India. This indicates that a Muslim can say Jai Shri Ram without any reluctance. In fact, all Indians can say Jai Shri Ram as Rama represents the Indian tectonic plate and all Indians are residing in India, which is a part of Indian plate. But it is better to send blessings upon Rama by telling peace be upon him whenever you take his name. It is mentioned in the Quran, chapter 2, verse number 4 and 136 that a Muslim must believe in all the scriptures of Allah and do not differentiate between them. Therefore, I request the followers of the Prophet Muhammad to believe in Ramayana as well and respect it in the same way as they respect Quran and other scriptures. Similarly, I request all the followers of the Prophet Rama to believe in Quran as it confirms the earlier scriptures as mentioned in the Quran, chapter number 2, verse number 41. Let me add one more thing here. Since Rama's birth marks the birth of India, I urge the government of India to declare the birthday of Rama as a national festival of India and all Indians must celebrate birthday of Rama. Similarly, the geological history of formation of Arabian and Sinai Peninsula is mentioned in the Quran and Genesis, where Prophet Muhammad and Prophet Moses represent the Arabian and Sinai Peninsula respectively. The birthday of Prophet Muhammad and Prophet Moses marks the birth of Arabian and Sinai Peninsula respectively. Therefore, the Arabs and Israelites should celebrate the birthday of Prophet Muhammad and Prophet Moses respectively. All this information implies that the religion is not different than science and science is not different than religion. They go hand in hand and they are intertwined. In this presentation, I have tried to show some of the details regarding the creation of the Indo-Australian tectonic plate and will try to decipher the remaining kandas of Ramayana in future presentations, inshallah. But we are left with a short time before the commencement of the Pralaya, the Qiyamah. Therefore, I request the science and religious scholars to join hands with me to decipher the Ramayana and the other Indian scriptures within a reasonable time before it is too late and spread the true knowledge of Allah to protect the human race. Some of you may call me madman as mentioned in the Quran, chapter number 44, verse number 14, and some of you may also try to harm me as well, but these are the facts. This is my honest interpretation of the scriptures, but the true knowledge lies with Allah alone. Peace be upon all of these prophets and all praises to Allah alone, the Lord of the universe. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.